when it comes to Republicans, they don't like brown people. I don't know. It's just awful. I hate it.
I'm a Republican. I don't hate brown people.
All right, let's hear it. Are you in favor of locking down the border? And
What do you mean by locking down the border? I'm in favor of having borders and having control over who enters the country
I am in favor of having
and who
borders
doesn't enter
and
the
having
country.
control over who's in the country. Why not have a simple immigration status?
I know a lot of people are upset about kind of ramping up the illegal immigrant deportations or like people
Yeah,
overstaying their visas, getting kicked out.
yeah, I'm very upset at that. Very.
Okay,
Um,
let's talk about it.
sure.
Why are you upset?
I am upset about it because it's revoking away basic human rights. And it also doesn't actually
Okay.
address the problem. The problem is a self-manufactured problem. It was a problem that has been invented by the Republican Party themselves in the sense that they don't like brown people. And so they made it more and more difficult to actually become a citizen of the United States. The actual process of getting a green card status is virtually impossible for most immigrants, save for if you are a refugee. But even then, it's extremely difficult. So, but what ends up happening is that if you're a refugee, let's say you show up to the border, you want to do it all correct, you want to do it legal. You show up to the border, they you say that you're a refugee because that's the quickest way to actually become a citizen in the United States. You enter a diversity lottery, and sometimes you are detained for weeks on end, often separated from your children, also detained, and you're also given no shoes and in a holding cell. That will be 60 degrees, right? It's deliberately done in order to make people uncomfortable. You will also be imprisoned in these locations, often for weeks at a time, where there really is no definite like time when you're supposed to go for a court hearing. They could just kind of choose. And if a guard particularly doesn't like you, they can hold you for longer if they want. And so what ends up happening is that if, let's say you are in fact a legitimate refugee and they prove that, you enter into a diversity lottery, which often can take anywhere between 5 to 10 years in order to even be accepted to potentially get a green card. The end result is that a lot of these people are legitimately fleeing from rough conditions, be it from Venezuela or cartels or whatever, or hell, it could even be people from Europe. What ends up happening is that they just go, man, fuck it. I'm just going to cross the border because I'm in a genuinely destitute situation. And so they just do that and just, pretend like they're citizens, right? They will literally risk their lives going over a desert for several days just so that they can avoid how rough the legal process is. Again, the legal process has been invented and created by creating roadblocks by Republicans, which then result in the increased amount of illegal immigration. And so the solution that I have is simplify the process to getting green card status. I'm not even saying, citizenship or make it easy to become a citizen of the United States. I'm saying give them a green card so that way, one, they do have human rights, right? They are upheld by the United States Constitution. And if they have a green card, they can work in the United States, right? So I don't see the problem of something like this. But again, when it comes to Republicans, they don't like brown people. I don't know. It's just awful. I hate it.
I'm a Republican. I don't hate brown people.
All right, let's hear it. Are you in favor of locking down the border? And
What do you mean by locking down the border? I'm in favor of having borders and having control over who enters the country
I am in favor of having
and who
borders
doesn't enter
and
the
having
country.
control over who's in the country. Why not have a simple immigration status so that way, take for example, if you're not on the OFAC list, if you're not on the no-fly list, and you don't have any communicable diseases, and you're not convicted of any violent crimes in your home country, bro, here's your green card. That's where I'm at with it. You tell me. What do you have
What
an
is
issue with
the
it?
NoFAC list?
Oh, OFAC list.
What is that?
It's a list. It's basically a text file, but what it is, it's a sanctions list, like as in being able to enter into the country. There's like groups of people who have specific names, specific identities that are not allowed to enter into the country. Like you can't get, like, for example, a plane ticket to the United States if you're on the OFAC list.
Okay. So just like generally people that the United
Dangerous.
States is already aware of,
Yeah.
they don't want.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a good idea. No-fly list. I'm actually against the no-fly list in general. At
Why?
least having American citizens on it. I think private companies could do that, but I'm against the government having that. For international, it sounds like OFAC is international,
Yeah.
but domestic no-fly lists by a government seem kind of
It's usually people who are, well, usually when
potential.
an American citizen gets on the no-fly list, it's because they like got really drunk and belligerent on a plane,
Right.
right? And then
Yeah, and if it's
they
just
caused
a list
they
held
caused trouble
by,
for TSA.
yeah. No, I feel like a lot of that's extra judicial process. Like, there's no hearing to determine any like set of facts
Yeah.
as to whether or not the charges being alleged are have any merit, or whether or not someone really poses a risk. It's kind of just like somebody somewhere decided this person should never fly again.
Yeah.
I'm generally against that, but that's kind of tangential to the point where we're talking about. You said something like the first thing you said kind of struck me. You said it's against basic human rights.
Yeah.
On first principles, if we're just to talk about like what are human rights, I'm not of the opinion that anyone has a human right to occupy or to
Oh, the negative right
I
of
guess
life, liberty,
travel to,
property, pursuit of happiness.
or the negative right.
The negative rights
You
of
mean the
life,
positive?
liberty, property, pursuit of happiness.
Okay. Do you feel like that extends to someone being able to live in whatever country they
That
want, regardless of
that ought
whether or not
extend
someone wants
to
them
all
there?
that it ought extend to all humans. Now, whether or not that they have a right to work in a country and live there, that's a different discussion. But the point that I'm trying to make is that they ought be treated as human beings with dignity, not in cages, not separated from their kids, right? Like, as if, like, the way that we should look at them is effectively like people that want to like get on a plane, right? The airport isn't like the airport isn't going to treat you horrendously, right? They're going to offer you things that are available, right? That, in order to make things more comfortable for you, right? Why we don't treat people differently. We treat people like as a service. Like, I don't know, maybe like you could say maybe you get treated badly at the DMV, but at least the DMV isn't putting you in fucking cages, right? They have water available, right? They let you leave as you see fit, right? Do you see my problem?
You're talking about the process of deportation rather than the deportation itself is what you have a problem with.
The
You have
Well, it's not
difficulty with the
necessarily the
process that's
process of
enacted.
deportation. It's the process of immigrating into the United States and becoming a citizen is horrendous. They do not treat you as if you are a human. And the reason why is because you're not a citizen of the United States. If you are not a citizen of the United States, right then and there, you don't have human rights by the United States by law. You do not have human rights, right? And they know
I'm not
this.
100% familiar with the process that it takes to like get a green card or to like become a citizen, but I know one of the major ways people get into the country is like they'll get a visa, then they'll overstay, and that's actually just like a misdemeanor, right? Like in a lot of cases, it's not even something that gets you deported. You just get a misdemeanor
Uh,
charge for that.
Um,
Um, but
I
I,
don't
I
know if
don't
that's a
think what you're talking
misdemeanor,
about.
but I mean you're talking about tourist visas where people can just get a tourist visa come in as a tourist and just
H-1B
overstay that
visas, work
visa.
visas, any
Yeah,
sort of visa that gets you into the country and you just overstay it. But
yeah.
I mean, what you're talking about is not that are you talking about that process of
No,
like just
no, I'm
coming
not
into the
talking about. That's a
country and then
different
while you're
process.
here applying?
That's a different process
Or are you
entirely.
talking about you're in your
I
country,
mean, to be fair, like anybody that has an
you've
H-1B visa
applied?
ought to be able to have a green card. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like why do we get to treat these people worse, right? Because they come from a different country. Like it just doesn't
I
seem
guess
appropriate. They can work here in the
for the
U.S., but
normal
we can't treat
process
them like a normal human being. Like what?
for the normal process of applying to be a citizen, not with any like visa, or you're not in the
Well,
country currently, like you're in
take for
Spain or
example, like
something, you're
a
applying to be a US citizen. Where
if
where in that process is the mistreatment?
the detainment and the physical separation from
Well,
children
you're
and
not
not
being
treating them as
detained.
human
Like
beings.
you're
No, you
you're in
are.
another
They can. They
country.
no, no. They can detain you. You don't understand.
No,
They
I know
can
what you're
detain
saying.
you.
You're
They can
saying someone
literally
who's
put you in
in
a
the
cage
country.
and you can't do anything legally. There's
I'm
nothing
not
you can
talking
do.
about. No, I understand. I'm not talking about that situation. I'm saying for someone out of country, in a different country in the world, not in the United States. They're in Spain or something, or Brazil. They're trying to become a citizen.
Hmm.
They're applying for citizenship
Yeah.
in their own to the United States from their own country. Where in that process, which to my understanding is the legal process, where in that process is the mistreatment?
Well, hold on. Like it is also a legal process to show up to the southern border and claim asylum.
To show up at a port of entry, that is a
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
telling you about the port of entry process. Like obviously the person who's in
For
Spain,
like
they can do that from the
you're
comfort
talking
of their
about
own home. Now
specifically
they enter into a
for
diversity lottery, which ultimately takes the same 5-10 years, like I said before. But I mean, at least they're comfortable at their house, so I'll grant you that. But I mean that's not the way that if they showed up at a port of entry as a refugee, you do not get treated as a human being.
someone just shows up at a port of entry, you're saying they get put inside of a cage,
Yep.
separated from their children.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I kind of understand the child separation thing because for the most part, they don't want to house children with adults for a number of reasons.
What?
But
It's
uh,
their parents. What are you
yeah.
talking about?
Well, the housing situation isn't always in the way like that. It's just them. It's just them and their kids. It'd be like them, their kids, plus 20 other families in the same
Yeah,
like
it's
mass.
okay. They can stay together. What's the problem? Why are we separating them?
There's certain liability issues with putting children
Actually,
amongst,
actually, actually, in reality,
like when they're in your
I, I,
custody.
that's wrong. There is no liability because they are not a citizen of the United States.
No, but they have just by dint of being in the United States, that carries with it certain rights.
I mean, my dude,
So
I
whether or
got
not
news
they're
for
a
you, right?
citizen doesn't really
Let's say, for
matter to whether or not
example,
they have
that
constitutional
the
rights.
Border Patrol decided to just start killing inmates, right? The only thing that could even potentially be done in that situation, if the United States doesn't defend against it, right, as like a horrific human atrocity, is it would go to an international court, which ultimately is what? The United States, right? These
No,
people
you
have
can't.
no legal representation. The dominant force of
I'm sorry, that's
all of
just not true.
international
You can't.
courts, the dominant force of international courts is the United States.
What you're saying that Border Patrol could just kill someone in the United States borders just because they want to and face no legal repercussions is not
Well,
reality.
okay, so we would hope that but the point that I'm trying to make here is that there is a legal gray area here that revokes the basic humanity of these people, right? That's my concern. And
You
like,
might say on like a human level, but at least can you admit that on a legal level, they still have the same rights on a legal level
no,
as any
no,
U.S.
they
citizen
are they
does
are in
on
a
On
no,
American soil?
no, no, they do not. That's why I'm
I'm sorry,
arguing against it. They
that's
do
just not
not.
true.
That is true. That is true.
Even
Like I understand, like here's the
illegal
thing. I
immigrants.
understand on paper it says it. That is not what happens in practice, right? It is not legal for someone to say detain you for an indefinite amount of time and offering no court date, right? That's not normal. right? A citizen can absolutely apply a lawsuit in a situation like that, in which case it would be completely unacceptable from the eyes of the court. But if they're not a citizen of the United States, that is now an illegal gray area that most people don't even touch, nor is the person even capable of being able to challenge that against the international power of the United States. It's not going to happen. Now, if they have
I
green
don't know
card
the
status,
specifics of,
totally different scenario. They're like a citizen. They get treated like a citizen, right? The only downsides is that they don't have access to certain federal funding, and they also don't have access to voting. I also think there's some additional laws for guns. I don't know. Check me on that.
yeah, I don't know if I can't like argue with what you're saying about. I don't know if you have certain anecdotes that you're aware of that I'm not aware of. I can only talk on principle that it is a fact that illegal immigrants have the same rights as U.S. citizens
No,
while in the United States.
they do not.
Uh, you may very well be right that there are instances where those rights have been violated because of their ability to protect themselves through the legal process. I could see that being true, but that's not. I don't really know the remedy for that other
Yeah.
than like,
They're only
is this
protected
U.S.
under
justice really
they're
stepping
only
up for
protected
like
under
certain third
international
party?
law, but because it is the United States and not another country, they don't necessarily have to respect international law. Like torture is largely banned by international law, but the United States still had done it in Guantanamo Bay. Right. And it was only unto the United States itself checking itself, saying that was wrong and not to do it. Right. And then
Do
and
you?
we're still, by the way, not even sure if that's true or not, because it's not like that they just
Yeah.
let you go to Guantanamo Bay and audit Guantanamo Bay for like human rights violations.
Right. Well, can we go back to first principles about like the human rights thing? If you want to argue, I think we could probably come to some agreement on like general how you should treat detainees, whether they're U.S. citizens or not.
Yeah.
I'm pretty like pro constitutional rights. Um, I think we agree on that. So I'm not going to argue with you like detainees should have the same rights. So I don't think that's something we need to really argue about. I'm
Well,
more
I mean, we
interested in
should
like,
because, well, I mean, I'm saying like it's important to me because like like one of my largest driving forces of what I consider important in any country
Mhm.
is the concept of human rights. If you live in a country that
Right.
does not respect human rights, it's fundamentally a worse off society. Like by every stretch of the
Right,
imagination, because if you're mistreating one group of
for
people,
sure.
you could do it to all sorts of people, right?
Right.
Which to
I'm with
me
you
is a
on that.
giant problem.
We might disagree on, I think minds can differ on what exactly is a right versus not a right. For example, like, oh God, I hesitate to even mention this, like whether or not abortion has a right, you have a right to privacy, or something like that. I'm, I think we can agree at least on the
Wait,
right of
wait,
like
do you
being,
disagree that a person has a
no,
right to a
we're not
privacy
going
with
there.
abortion?
We're not going there. We're not going there, Mr. Winter. Let's stay on topic.
Just,
I think we
just
can agree at least on the rights for illegal immigrants. You know, not to be tortured, not to be held in like uncomfortable conditions, cruel and unusual punishment. Same, like none of that, right? I don't think it's worth like we're not going to disagree on anything there. I'm interested in like what do we do about people who are here illegally? I don't how many people there are like 20 million people or something
mhm.
right now are here undocumented. Many of them we don't know who they are. They could be terrorists, they could be criminals. Like, do we just let them be? And if not,
No, of
what
course
should
not.
we do? Under ideal conditions, like, do we deport them? Do we let them stay?
Yeah. So what we would do is
What's your
like
view on that?
people who are currently here illegally, right? We change our policies where it is now a lot easier to get a green card. And then with that understanding, knowing that it's much easier to get a green card, you don't even have to hunt these people down. They will come, right? They will know that, hey, this is an opportunity that I don't want to miss. And so when they
Or be
show up,
afraid that it's like a honeypot or something.
yeah,
I can
maybe
see
at
that.
first, but like I think like establishing trust obviously would probably be a factor there.
Mhm.
But But I mean, once they start seeing people actually getting green cards, then, they would likely, start coming out of the woodwork. And so, then we would know who's coming into the country and who's not coming in the country. And then people would stop wanting to cross the border illegally. They would just go to a port of entry to get a green card. And the only people that would actually come in illegally would be violent criminals, because they know that they wouldn't be able to get their green card because of their current status. Right? So like that can be handled with the swift, with the swift power of the law, and defended 100%.
More towards like amnesty for those who are here in the form.
I just said green card. I just said green card. That's not amnesty.
Help me understand. Right. What would you say is the difference between someone with a citizenship, with like full citizenship, versus a green card?
Yeah.
What are they getting with a citizenship that they're not getting with a green card?
Yeah. So let me just
in your mind.
Are you asking in my mind, or do you want me to like research it?
Either, whichever it's up to you.
Okay.
I don't want you to waste time if you don't want to look into it. I honestly don't know.
Yeah. So, okay.
I think green card is like temporary citizenship.
Yes.
Before you're approved, like it allows you to come into the country.
So with a green card, right, you can't vote in elections. A citizen can. You can't run for public office, except there's some exceptions at a local level. You cannot hold a U.S. passport, but a U.S. citizen can. You cannot serve on a jury, but a U.S. citizen can. There are certain federal jobs and security clearances that are not allowed for green card holders. And there is also an oath to allegiance. The U.S. citizen must swear an oath to allegiance to the United States. That is not the case for a green card status holder.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it's like you basically have the same rights as citizens, generally speaking, right? However, there is also limited eligibility regarding various government benefits. Like I'm almost positive that you can't apply for most federal benefits with a green card, but you could if you are a citizen.
Have you been on this same level? Is this a different level?
I'm just ripping my hair out because I'm on World 8, and World 8 is hard.
All right. Okay, so I think a lot of people feel that the immigration process is probably too encumbered. We don't have enough judges in immigration court. I don't know that would solve it, because I think one of the big complaints that people have about illegal immigration, or not actually even illegal immigration, just mass immigration, unregulated mass immigration, is you'll have some of these border towns that'll have like influxes of tens of thousands of people at a time coming into their city, overwhelming infrastructure, education, healthcare.
Well, if you're talking about
they just don't have the resources for it.
If you're talking about an overwhelming of infrastructure in a specific area, I could see at local municipality level, like be like, okay, well, we need to invest in our infrastructure. Check back with us later when our infrastructure is. But that's regarding a strict numbers solution that I have never heard a single Republican argue in favor of. Right, where it's like we're looking at infrastructure and improving the infrastructure as opposed to like let's limit the amount of immigrants. Like it's always been, let's limit the immigrants. Let's not like focus on increasing infrastructure. Right? If you have a bunch of new immigrants, right, that's a lot of new workers. You can put these people to work, right? And then they can like actually build up your economy, and it actually benefits everybody.
Sure. The point I'm trying to make, it's not about just one thing. It's that there are good reasons why people might want to not make it easy for people to come to this country. Not for like xenophobic or racist reasons, like hating brown people, but simply because the amount of time and investment it would take to accommodate the number of people that actually want to live in a particular place is not
I've heard this
presently
excuse,
feasible
but
to.
overwhelmingly, what I've observed. Take for example, uh, how do you feel about the refugee status for white South Africans? Because Donald Trump, he had just recently expedited a process for refugees of white South Africans because that they are refugees going through an apartheid in denying white people access to their land. They're denying them access on the basis of racial lines, and they're being discriminated against in South Africa, and they are expediting citizenship for these people. But if you're from Venezuela, then they don't give us, yeah, they just don't. Why would they do that? I guess is my concern.
Do you want the answer I think, or do you want
Sure.
like I can guess at it, but
Well, I
I
mean,
don't
if I
know
had to
how valuable
guess,
it'd be to.
I think they don't like
Yeah,
brown
you're gonna
people.
say racism,
Yeah,
right?
it's racism. Yeah. What else is it? What I
So
can't
you're
imagine.
probably not gonna be satisfied with any other answer besides racism.
Well, I mean, I'll
Is
hear
that
you
right?
out. No, I'll hear you out if it's convincing and it has a great deal of explanatory power. Then yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't know for certain, obviously, but if I had to hazard a guess, um, potentially you could talk about their ability to speak English is higher in South Africa, so their cultural their ability to what's the word when you like morph into a culture, assimilate, to assimilate into society is higher than someone who couldn't speak English, or they might have certain skill sets that we would find valuable because of the culture they're from than someone
Yeah,
from
I have a
a
phrase
different
for this.
nation. I don't know.
I have a phrase for this. This is literally
Go for it.
they're
Let's hear
brown.
it.
They don't speak my language. They make me uncomfortable. They make me upsetty spaghetti, and I really wish that they would speak my language. And I just feel uncomfortable. I don't want to be around them. That's yeah,
All right. Is
exactly.
that what you feel like I'm saying there
Yes,
with that?
yes,
Is that
because
hearing me
yeah,
out?
because you.
It
Okay,
doesn't
all
feel
right,
like you're hearing me
all
out.
right. I heard you
Sounds like you're
say
putting
their
words in my mouth.
culture, and I heard you say they don't speak the same language. Are you aware that brown people, especially second generation, can speak English?
Second generation
Yeah,
brown
yeah. Like
people?
when
What
they
does that
have
mean?
kids.
In the United
Yeah,
States? I did not know that, but it
yeah.
doesn't surprise
I'm
me.
one of them. I'm right here. Hi.
What's that? What's the relevance? Can you help me understand the relevance of that?
Well, the end result is that they can speak English, right? It doesn't take long for them to learn English.
Yeah, but we're
Like,
not
so
talking
why is
about
that a concern?
accepting in second generation
And why is
immigrants. Could
cultural
be first generation
hegemony
immigrants.
like necessary? I thought the United States is the melting pot of the world. Is it not? I thought we were that.
I don't necessarily think it should be the melting pot. I think like a lot of people
Why?
say that like bring me your well, there should be an accepted set of values within any nation. Otherwise, why does that
Like
nation
what?
exist? There should be agreed upon
Like what?
set of values that.
Like liberalism?
Do you want me to state what a nation's set of values should be?
No,
Is
is
that what
it
you're
like yeah,
asking me?
what you would want it to be? I guess yeah.
I don't think there's value in outlining my particular preference for a nation's set of values if we're
Okay.
just talking
Do
about
you think
immigration.
liberalism is part of American values?
It depends on what form of liberalism you're talking
Classical
about, but in
liberalism?
general, I would probably agree with that.
So
Yeah.
respecting a right to life, liberty, property, pursuit of happiness is a good thing. That's a liberal value. That's a very American centric idea.
In general, yeah, I think people are gonna differ on what sorts of
Yeah, like they
pursuits
want to. Yeah, yeah, I
are
get it. Like there are
worthwhile
people
or
that want to subjugate a minority of people because they make them uncomfortable. Yes,
right.
I'm
I,
serious. Like that's what I
I don't know if
genuinely
you're
believe it
talking about.
is. I don't know how
Okay,
else to
well, you're
frame it.
talking to me. You're talking to me right now. I can't speak for other people. If you're asking me what I think, I can tell you, but I can't argue with your opinion about other people,
Yeah.
uh, what their perspective is. So you can ask me questions and I can tell you what I think, but
Okay. Um. do you feel it is important to preserve a particular culture in the United States?
A particular set of values, I would say, yeah, but not. I don't.
What
If that's what you
can
mean
I
by
ask you?
culture,
What
yes, but
values those are?
like the things you're talking about, like the respect of rights, the respect of like particularly our Constitution, like free speech
Yeah. So, like, if
in the
somebody
rest of
wanted
the world
Sharia
is like
law,
not at
probably a good
all
idea to stop
valued.
that, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So, like, if
That'd
somebody
be
say,
totally counter to our nation's set of values.
yeah, so,
It's the same reason why you
what?
hear a lot of people talk when they talk about like banning guns, like that would never work in this nation because of our set of values is very like anti-authoritarianism,
Yeah,
which is pretty unique to the United States. Considered we were like we're one of the few nations that was founded primarily against tyranny. Like our founding orthodoxy was anti-tyranny.
I
So
understand that. So
in
the
a country
idea of
that
like, say, like, uh, establishing the United States on the basis of Judeo-Christian values would be antithetical to the founding of the United States of America, right?
sorry, say that again.
Founding the country on the basis of Judeo-Christian values is antithetical to the founding of the United States of America. Yes?
No.
Why?
Well, because our the founding of the United States was primarily based on Judeo-Christian
No,
values,
wrong.
which is primarily why Sharia law would not work.
Well, no. So the answer to that is no, because the basis is actually coming from a deist principle. Are you aware what deism is?
Yes.
Okay. So you're aware that it was pretty fundamental, the separation of church and state. It's there in the First Amendment.
Well, the nation was founded. The founding fathers were pretty explicit that the nation was founded based on Judeo-Christian values,
No,
not
wrong,
like it was the
wrong.
expectation of all founders
That
that.
is wrong.
I'll have to disagree with you on that.
Let me provide this. Hold on. Give me a second. Have you ever heard of the Treaty of Tripoli?
No.
Yeah. Give me a quick moment while I find it. Yes, I think I'll share it on stream as well. So I would switch over to where you see my camera. You see it?
Uh, yes, we're looking at a Wikipedia article
Yeah.
about the Treaty of Tripoli.
Yep. The Treaty of Tripoli was signed in 1796. It was the first treaty between the United States and Tripoli, which is now Libya, to secure the commercial shipping rights and protect the American ships of Mediterranean Sea and local Barbary pirates. It was authored by Joel Barlow, and an ardent Jeffersonian Republican who signed the Treaty of Tripoli in November 4th of 1796. And the Algiers for third-party witnesses of January 3rd of 1797, it was ratified in the United States Senate unanimously and without debate on June 7th of 1797, taking effect on June 10th of 1797 with the signature of President John Adams. Succeeding Adams as president, Thomas Jefferson refused to continue paying Tripolitania the tributes stipulated in the treaty, partially leading to the First Barbary War. A superseding treaty, the Treaty of Peace and Amity, was signed into June 4th of 1805. The treaty is often cited in discussions regarding the role of religion in the United States and government due to the clause of Article 11 of the English language translation that was ratified by the Senate and signed by the President, which states, "The government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion."
I would agree it's probably not founded on a particular religion. I was saying it's founded on a particular set of values based on the Christian
Yeah.
religion.
Well, if you look at the First Amendment, it literally gives you a clear separation of church and state. I would argue that the
Right.
position was a deist perspective, not a modern Christian perspective, and I do not believe that it comes from their idea of that it is a majority a Christian country. It is an everybody country.
So one of the reasons why that was included in the First Amendment was because you had a lot of Protestants who were fleeing the Roman Catholic Church.
That's
They were
correct.
fleeing persecution from the Roman Catholic
Yes,
Church
I
in
agree.
Europe. It was not it was not that they didn't expect a majority of people to follow the Protestant faith. They
Correct.
didn't want persecution from Catholics
That's
immigrating to the United States
I agree with that. That's correct.
against Protestants.
So
So that's not to say that that exists as a means of separation of church and state. It was
Can I
primarily
interject for a bit? Because I want to give you a perspective about something because you said it was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. The term
values. Yes, yes.
Judeo-Christian was invented in the 1930s, and it was actually a reaction to fascism in Europe, right? As a sort of to link the fact that not
Yeah,
all Christians are against
I think
Jews, right?
yeah.
So
I
the
think people
founding
mean
fathers for
different things about
sure,
it.
yeah, but the founding fathers for sure had no idea what you would have been talking about
Right.
if you would have said Judeo-Christian values. They were liberals. Most
I
of
think you
them.
could interchange that with like
Liberal
Protestant
values is a
values,
lot better of a term.
liberal values. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could agree on that.
all right. So, I mean, like the Treaty of Tripoli shows pretty directly that the founding fathers did not argue for a Christian led government. They never did that. Never. And so I mean, it could be possible to say that if you looked at specific founding fathers and said they had a heavy Christian leaning, I would agree with you. That is true, right? But the idea that the United States is founded on Judeo-Christian values, no, absolutely not. It's founded actually in spite of it, right? And you're correct. They were fleeing the Catholic Church, which in fact is a Christian sect. Right, so I would say that it's actually the opposite. It is in spite of Christianity, not in favor of it.
I would have to look more into this specific example you're giving me if you don't mind
Sure.
waiting a minute.
Sure. I do have to actually end it off, but this has been a very good discussion. I would like to continue, but we're actually running 30 minutes past when I normally stop. But
Oh my.
it was such an actually interesting discussion that I did want it to continue. I think we'll probably make this a full video. Are you in my notification server? Would you like an invite?
I think I am. I know I responded one time. I had an issue with kind of the editorializing post ejection from the chat, and I think you've since remedied that. And I think that was in the context of that chat.
Okay, well, if you want an invite to my notification server,
Oh, it's an actual
Just-
server.
yeah, it's a notification
Yeah.
server.
Oh, then
Basically,
no, I'm not
and
in
so
that.
all it is just a notification. If you want to actually debate me, don't go to my notification server. Go to go to the Modern Day Debate Discord. Right? It is just entirely done just so I can notify people. Hey, I'm streaming. That's it.
So, yeah, I'll take an invite to that if you want to send that to me in a
I
DM.
sent it over. Anyway,
I prefer talking to people that I disagree with because I often get much more diverse set of opinions as opposed to just an echo chamber.
But by the
And I
way,
just like to hear
you said
people think
something
different.
interesting.
hold on, real quick. Let me just
Okay.
end it off real quick, and then okay. So hold on.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Give me a sec.